Good morning, Year 3, and welcome to our final week of live lessons. You've all worked really hard, especially with my maths lessons during the week. But let's just push on for that last week and then we can be back in school next Monday. How exciting! So, as usual, what I want you to do is pause the video and read confidently and loudly to someone at home the learning objective. Pause the video. Okay, well done if you read it out confidently without stuttering on any words. It's my turn to read it now. Learning objective. I can recognize and describe the properties of 2D and 3D shapes using appropriate vocabulary. So well done if you read that correctly. Remember to check the keywords appropriate vocabulary. It's really important that we could pronounce them, so pause the video if you struggled with that. And let's move on to today's lesson. To start with, we're going to get our brains in gear as usual. It's really important that we warm up before we get onto our main activities in our maths to help us push on so that we don't find it too hard at the end of the lesson. So last week and this week we've been learning all about 2D and 3D shapes and all the important things that we need to know about them. Last week we focused on mainly year 2 areas that you need to know about shapes, because I know it's been a long time and in summer last year you missed part of your shapes lessons in year 2. So what we did last week is we made sure that we built up the confidence and all the knowledge for this week when we're moving on to mainly our year 3 outcomes that we need to meet. So to start off with, we have 2D shapes. Now we know the definition of a 2D shape. It is a form of an outline which is flat. And we know that the D stands for dimensional in the word 2D. So any shapes that you see is flat, you know it's a 2D shape. So what I want you to do is pause the video and I want you to label each shape, each 2D shape we've got on the screen, count all the sides and think back to last week. What are the names of each shape? So pause the video and have a go with that one. Let's just run through our answers. Make sure that you post any work that you've done in your maths lesson today as usual on your portfolio so that me or another teacher can mark them. Let's start off with an easy peasy one. We have, of course, one curved side, so it is a circle. We have a triangle because it has 3 sides, and remember the word tri means 3. Then we have a rectangle. Remember it's not a square because all the sides are not equal in length, so remember that it's a rectangle. Of course it has 4 equal lengths on the sides, so it is a square. Then we have a 5-sided shape which is a pentagon. Then be careful counting these because there are 2 sides in the corners right at the top. It is a hexagon. Remember I always say hex sounds like 6, so remember that one. And then finally the hardest one, if you counted very slowly and very carefully, you will have got 8 sides. Remember an 8-sided shape is called an octagon, and remember the word oct, you have it in an octopus which has 8 tentacles. So give yourself a pat on the back if you got that correct. Well done. Whenever we talk about 2D shapes, there are them 2 important words that we learned and introduced to you last week. The first word is polygon. Now, you should all know what a polygon is by now, but it's important that we keep repeating it so that it instills in our head. Now, a polygon is a name given to a 2D shape with straight sides that are fully closed. So, for example, if you get to the vertex in the corner and it actually breaks, it cannot be a polygon, okay? And also all the sides have to be straight. So for example, a circle, it has 1 curved side, so it's impossible for that to be a polygon 2D shape. The next word that we covered from last week was quadrilateral. Now I said if you break the word down, the first word is quad. For example, a quad bike. Now, if you've ever been on a quad bike, you'll know that there are 4 wheels. It's the same with 2D shapes. A quadrilateral 2D shape has 4 straight sides and it has vertices in each corner. So always remember that whenever we're talking about 2D shapes or talking about the properties of 2D shapes. So remembering back to last week when we played the Guess Who and we were looking at features of different people that were on the board, and you had to tell your parents and they had to guess which person you was talking about. Remember, whenever the basics that we're talking about 2D shapes and their properties, you have sides, which is each side of a shape, okay? And then in the corner where 2 straight sides meet, you have a vertex, or if there's more than one, we would say vertices. So always remember that. We are now going to test our knowledge from last week to see if we remembered every part of labeling basic properties of a shape. So let's have a look at this shape on the board. First of all, we're going to start off with the sides, okay? So let's count together. So let's start at the top. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. We've got 5 sides to this shape, okay? Then we've got vertices. Remember, vertices are the corners of a 2D shape. So let's count from the top and work clockwise. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We've got 5 sides and 5 vertices. So we all know that this shape with 5 sides and 5 vertices is definitely a pentagon. Similar to our Guess Who from last week, what I'm going to do is I've got 3 different clues that you have to draw a shape, or you might have to draw more than one shape that fits into the categories and into the properties that I say. So let's have a go. First one, so get your pencils ready to draw. You have 4 equal sides and 4 vertices. So draw the shape that you think that I'm talking about. The next one, we have 8 sides and we have 8 vertices. So if you've got a ruler and a pencil, that would be great. You can draw them accurately. Don't forget to post on your portfolio any pictures that you've drawn. And then the final one, my clue to you is 1 curved side. So you should have drawn at least 3 different shapes, 1 for each of the tasks that I've put on the board. So make sure you post them on your portfolio. Our next task is to find out which of these 5 shapes are quadrilateral. Now there's a clue on the board if you have forgot what quadrilateral means, but what I want you to do is pause the video, either draw these shapes out, or if you've got a printer, print them off, and I want you to put a tick next to the shapes that you think are quadrilateral. Pause the video and have a go. Let's just run through them. So to start off with, in the first shape we have 4 sides and a quadrilateral has 4 sides. Are there any curved sides to them? The answer is no, so we can put a nice big tick on that first one. The next shape, we have got 5 sides, so unfortunately it's not a quadrilateral, it doesn't have 4 sides. The next shape after that, we have 4 sides and they are all straight, so we can put a big tick on that one. The next one, we have 8 sides to this shape, so we definitely know this is not a quadrilateral shape, so we will leave that one. And then to finish off, we have 4 sides to this shape that are all straight, so we can put another tick. So give yourself a pat on the back if you ticked the 3 correct ones on the board. Well done. Let's move on. Problem solving now. So Cassie wants to create patterns using only hexagons. Which of these 2D shapes could she use in her patterns? So let's just break it down into 2 simple steps to answer this question. The first step is you need to count each side of each shape to work out if it is a hexagon. Your next step to answer this question is to draw any hexagonal shapes that you've picked out into a row, into a pattern, and post onto your portfolio so that me and the teachers can mark them to double check if you've got this answer correct. Anyone that gets this correct will get a Wow Dojo. So pause the video, spend a couple of minutes working out your pattern, and if you get it correct, you get a Wow Dojo. So my next question to you is, we should know what a polygon is. We have 4 different shapes on the board. What I want you to do is pick out the one that cannot be classed as a polygon. So pick the shape out that you think is not a polygon, but I want you to write in full sentences why you think it is not a polygon. Post all your answers to Portfolio and let's see if we can get even more dojos before we return to school next week. So pause the video. We are now into the second part of this lesson. So we've done all about 2D shapes. It's really important that we now do 3D shapes. Let's just remind ourselves from last week what a 3D shape actually is and what's the definition. A 3D shape is a solid shape. It has a length, width, and height. This means that it can be seen all the way around. And of course, the D means dimensional in the word 3D. So looking at the picture, we've got a width, we've got a length, and we've got a height. Can anyone tell me, pause the video and shout out, what is the 3D shape that I've got on my screen? Of course, it is a cuboid. Now it does look very similar to a cube, but you will see that the length of it is slightly bigger than the width. So it means that it is a cuboid and not a cube. So well done, give yourself a pat on the back if you got that correct. We have now remembered what a 3D shape is and what's the definition. As we did with 2D shapes, it's important that we can still identify and remember what 3D shapes we should know in year 3. So we've got 9 different 3D shapes on my screen right now. Pause the video and have a go. If you can find out the name of at least 5 and post your picture on of a list of your answers, then you will get another Wow Dojo. That's 2 Wow Dojos that you could have won just from this lesson. So pause the video and come up with some answers. What are the 3D shapes? So let's see who's getting them Wow Dojos today. The first one, of course, is a cuboid, similar to a rectangle, but it is the 3D version, a solid version. The next one, similar to a circle, but a 3D version, is the cylinder. Of course, you've all had ice cream at the seaside or maybe on a hot day. This is, of course, a cone. The next one, if you look at the base of the shape, it gives you a clue. It is a triangle-based pyramid. The next one, you all know this one. It's the easiest one to remember, is a cube. Then we have a square-based pyramid. The clue's in the name. It's a pyramid, but on the bottom, the shape is a square. The face is a square. And then finally, on the bottom row, we have a sphere. You will all have played football or maybe netball. A sphere is the shape that you have when you're playing football, so the ball that you kick. Then a bit tricky, which I will be impressed if anyone got this correct, is a triangular prism. So it's just a triangle that's been extended to make a solid shape, a 3D shape. And then we have a hexagonal prism, which is just the same as the triangular prism. It's a hexagon that's been extended into a 3D shape, a solid shape. So well done. If anyone got some Wow Dojos on there, I will be very, very impressed. Whenever we describe the properties of 3D shape, there are 3 things that we need to always remember to help someone understand what shape you're talking about. The first one is slightly different to 2D shapes. You have a face, okay? So that is the 2D shape that you have on your 3D shape, and what faces it and how many faces do you have. Then, very similar to 2D shapes, you have a vertex, but the difference is you might have 3 edges that are going into a corner. Same if you have more than one, you would call it vertices. And then your final property that you need to remember is edge. Now, of course, this is just the edge of a shape where two faces meet. So always remember them three different basic properties that you have in 3D shapes. To test our knowledge that we have just learned about the different properties that we look at when we're looking at 3D shapes, what I want you to do is look at the shape that I've got on my board. I want you to think of the three different properties, so faces, vertices, and edges. I want you to count each property, and I want you to write down the number of each face, each vertices, and each edge for this cuboid. So pause the video and have a go, and then come back to the video and we can run through the answers to see if you got them correct. So, to run through them, of course, the first thing I asked you to look at was the faces. We have got 6 faces on a cuboid, 4 are rectangular faces, and 2 are square faces. So 4 add 2 equals 6 faces. The next thing that I asked you to look at was edges. So if we count all the edges very carefully, if you've got an object at home that will help you to do it that's a cuboid, you will have counted 12 edges. And then finally, to count all the corners, all of the vertices, you will have counted 4 at the top and 4 at the bottom. So you've got 8 vertices all together on a cuboid. So give yourself a pat on the back if you got all of them correct. Your main task that I want you to do today is this grid below. I have given you 3 different 3D shapes that I want you to either find in the house or draw a picture or use Google to find the pictures to help you picture and to count each of the 3 different properties. So, first thing I want you to do is draw the table nice and neat. If you've got a ruler, that's great, or if you want to print out the slides, that's even better. The first thing you need to find out about each shape is the number of faces, then the number of edges, and then finally the number of vertices. Do not forget to post these pictures on Dojo so us as teachers can mark them and give you some feedback and understand if you have understood the lesson today. So take 5 minutes, around 5 minutes to do this. Take your time, find the objects if you can, and have a good go at it, and let's see if we get any final dojos of the day. So pause the video and have a go. As you know, to finish off all Mr. Craig's live lessons, I always come up with a nice fun question just to see if we've understood the main parts of the lesson. So Millie says that each of her cylinder pots have 2 faces, 2 edges and 0 vertices. Is she correct? So look at the picture to help you. Pause the video and work out if she has identified the correct amount of each property for this cylinder. If you've got a coffee pot in your kitchen, it might help you understand and you can physically count out each property to see if she's correct. So come up with an answer. Is she correct? Or if she isn't correct, what is your explanation to answer it and to help her out? So pause the video, then come back to the video once you've answered it, and I will tell you the answer of what I would say as a mathematician. Okay, so let's just run through it. Let's start off with the first property that she's identified with the number of faces. She has said that there are 2 faces on a cylinder. So let's just count them together. We have one top on the top and we have one on the bottom. But what has she forgot any side? Let's have a little think. So around a cylinder, although it is not a flat face, she has forgot to count the curved face. So in fact, she's incorrect in this property area because there are 3 faces to a cylinder. So well done if you said that for that part. Now moving on, we've got our 2 edges. Let's count together. So on the top of the circular face, we have 1 edge, and on the bottom of the circular face, we have another edge. So that means a cylinder has 2 edges, so she is correct in this part. Then to finish off, she said we have got 0 vertices. Now, if we think about the definition of the vertices, it's where two edges or more meet in a point. On a cylinder, you do not have straight edges that meet in a point, so she is correct. There are 0 vertices on our cylinder. So well done if you got that answer correct. Make sure that if you've wrote it out in full, your answer, post it on Portfolio and we can mark it to double check you have explained it correct. That is the end of our lesson. I hope you all enjoyed it and you all understood each part. If you didn't, then pause the video and go back to any parts that you did not understand, or message me or another teacher on Dojo to help you understand it further. It is bye from now from Mr. Craig. Have a lovely week.